All right, Wednesday, February 24th edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Meteorologist Matthew East here with you. Focus of today's video almost entirely on the dynamic storm system rolling through our region today that will bring a continued severe weather threat across the Carolinas and the surrounding areas as a whole. Now, let me get right into it here. There's a look at the Greensboro Tower camera during the 5 o'clock hour this morning. The wedge is still in place. It is cool. You have showers and elevated thunderstorms moving through. I'll tell you what that means in just a minute if you're not sure. But certainly still cool in the Triad, 45. The temperature in Greensboro. We had that wedge very firmly in place throughout the day yesterday. This northeasterly flow kept things quite cool in the favored cold air damming areas yesterday. Now these are temperatures as I speak. And the wedge still in place right about here. And locations to the south of that continue to warm up. We're going to see southerly winds kicking into gear, gradually scouring out that wedge as we get deeper into the day. But notice the wind kicking around to the east, around the Triad, then east-southeast as you get down to Charlotte and Columbia. That's a sign that the winds are shifting and that wedge will be getting scoured out with time. Now, you notice some flashes of lightning in parts of Guilford and Alamance County over the past hour or two as I cut this video. And yes, there are thunderstorms out there, but the base of the thunderstorms is located on top of this layer of cool air at the surface. That's why they're called elevated. They're not rooted near the ground as they often are. The instability right now is aloft. And so the severe weather threat this morning is very low in North Carolina. Any severe weather threat would be confined to some hail potential with these storms. But the severe weather threat will ramp up by midday. Now let me show you what's happening off to the south. You have this area through eastern Georgia down into Florida. That is what is left of that big round of severe weather that occurred off to the west of us yesterday. We're going to be watching this area very carefully in North Alabama, North Georgia, and eastern Tennessee. And as this energy moves into our area and interacts with an increasingly unstable air mass later today, that is when we will have the possibility of severe weather. Now, let me run down the watches and warnings. The tan shaded areas, those are wind advisories. The deeper orange coloration, that is a high wind warning up in the mountain areas. And you have flash flood watches up for the Charlotte area, down to Greenville, Spartanburg, Atlanta, up into the mountains south of Boone. And so that's the watch and warning situation as I cut the video. Now, there's your severe weather outlook for today. The yellow, that's your slight risk of severe weather. The brownish color, that's the enhanced risk. And then you get into a moderate risk of severe storms, which is pretty significant. As you get an enhanced risk is quite significant, too, as you head further east in North Carolina. Now, let me break it down by severe weather type, all right? If you're not familiar with this, these are percentages of your chance of seeing, in this case, a tornado within 25 miles of any specific point. So, for instance, Charlotte and Greensboro. That is a 5% tornado probability. I guess Greensboro right on the edge between 5 and 10%. And then that hatch area, those black lines, that is where you have a higher probability of seeing an F2 to F5, EF2 to EF5 tornado, so a stronger tornado, where the instability and the dynamics will be strongest. So again, there's your tornado probabilities. Here's your severe wind probabilities today. So again, for instance, Charlotte, that's a 15% chance of seeing damaging wind gusts within 25 miles of any given spot. And those probabilities go up from there. In fact, you're all the way up to 45% around Raleigh. And here's what we're looking at. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh modeling. You get a new run of this every hour, but this is the latest one as I'm cutting the video. And the primary window of opportunity for severe weather for places such as Charlotte and Greensboro down toward Rockingham and Wadesboro, that would be late this morning into very early this afternoon. There's what we're looking at, late morning into early afternoon, and then the threat continues further east from there, Raleigh and Point Seas, mid to late afternoon. So that's the timing of this. Again, Charlotte and Greensboro, I think late morning to early afternoon, our main window of opportunity for severe weather. Damaging winds, the biggest severe weather threat, but I can't rule out isolated tornadoes or a little bit of hail as this very dynamic storm system swings on in from the west. Now, even outside of thunderstorms, we're going to be looking at very gusty winds. This is the wind forecast. Well, let me back up here. I'll show you this a little bit better. All right, so here we go. This is the RPM wind forecast, and notice even outside of thunderstorms, a very, very windy day. And those winds even stay quite significant through tonight as well. So wind an issue even outside of thunderstorms. Now we enter a cool and quiet period tomorrow into the weekend. Mountain snow tomorrow. But just a very quick rundown of your highs. There's Thursday and there's Friday. Now let me show you some of the higher resolution data here, some of the things I'm looking at. We'll start with the GFS computer model. This is the 0Z run, and this is the instability values, the CAPE values. And again, you see they're kind of maximized down toward the coastal plain and up into the eastern half of North Carolina, but everybody roughly I-77 and points east into the instability to some extent. And there's what the surface representation looks like on the GFS this morning. Potent low over Kentucky, warm front working northward, and there's your trailing convection and thunderstorm activity along the cold front. All right, now let me show you what it looks like here. This is a composite indice called the Energy Helicity Index. And again, it's going to take me a minute to resize these where you can see. But this is off of the HRRR, that high resolution rapid refresh modeling. And see, that is valid early this afternoon, right around lunchtime. And these are very significant EHI values. That's a combination of instability and shear. And you get values that are getting over 3, and in some instances up to 5 plus. Those are very significant values over in central and eastern North Carolina. We go a little bit later into the afternoon, and again, let me resize this. This is valid at about mid-afternoon, and you see those values really maxing out into southeastern North Carolina. And then here's another composite indice that I like to use in severe weather situations. This is what's called the significant tornado parameter. Again, this looks at some of the parameters necessary for the development of tornadoes. And when you get these values over 2 and 3, those again are significant values. This is off of that high resolution rapid refresh model. You go a little bit deeper into the afternoon. And again, this is as you get toward mid-afternoon, and you see those values shifting over to eastern North Carolina. Now again, that was the high resolution rapid refresh. Let me show you one other model. This will be the NAM that you might be familiar with, the North American Mesoscale model. Well, let me get that back for you. Try that again. There we go. The North American Mesoscale model, and this will be valid very early this afternoon. This is again that significant tornado parameter. These are very, very significant values. If that were to be the case, you definitely have some concern for tornadic activity across the region. Now again, these are just model projections. These could be wrong, but there you are later this afternoon. That's a big time value showing up there in central and eastern North Carolina on that significant tornado parameter. So we will see how that plays out. I stuck a couple of these charts in here. This is the composite reflectivity. In other words, what this NAM model thinks the radar will look like. And then this is valid right after lunchtime. And you'll notice here as I step through some of these panels for you, this is a few hours later as you get toward mid-afternoon. You notice the activity not terribly widespread, but that would be a case where that's why you have those higher instability values on this particular model, is you have a decreased coverage of rain and storms, but the storms that do pop would undoubtedly pack a punch. And then you get on out into mid-evening, and there's the activity exiting off the coast on that NAM model. So what does all this mean? I mean, I think we're looking at a scenario where definitely you have possibilities of severe weather across the Carolinas today. We'll have to see how the morning areas of rain and thunderstorms behave to see where the highest instability values will set up as we get deeper into the day. And it's really, if you can get, you don't have to have a ton of instability, but if you can get some in place with the amount of wind energy swinging in with this system, definitely a severe weather possibility. I think damaging winds, our main severe weather threat, but certainly some tornadic activity is a possibility. You need to be sure and have a reliable way of hearing watches and warnings should they be required throughout the day. And of course, we will be live all day, every 10 minutes for you, right here on Time Warner Cable News. Every weathercast you see throughout the day will be live and up to date for you as we roll through this potential severe weather episode across the Carolinas. All right, that is it for today's edition of the video. Everybody stay safe, have a great day, and God bless.